Hello and welcome to the Astrology and Spirituality show for week commencing the 6th of December. It's a glorious day here in West Wales and we hope it is peaceful where you are. Now this week, in terms of the astrology, Mars is very influential. It's in one of its two home signs of Scorpio, but it's linking to its partner, the co-regent of Scorpio in modern astrology, of Pluto, in a really decisive way. Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, very much to do with substance. So any plan of a financial nature which has been really thought through, we could charge towards it with enormous determination. It could also bring an added spice to a romantic involvement if the connection is really clear. But Mars does square with Jupiter, and that could trick us a little bit into promising more than is realistic. So we need to sort of temper our enthusiasm. Also, in the first half of this week, Mercury clashes with Neptune. The second half of the week, the Sun. Then we have a quarter moon, which is in Pisces and embraces that Neptune position. So fact can be stranger than fiction this week. So if we are analysing something, scrutinising something, we really need to get down to the core facts. Now, of course, Venus goes into an exact conjunction with Pluto this month, twice. First of all, at the end of this week, then on Christmas Day, because of a retrograde that begins on the 19th. Now, a lot of people have been speculating what Venus in Capricorn means. If we think Capricorn is the planet of traditionality and structures, then perhaps we need to think about our relationships in terms of the quality of those structures. It can be a material conjunction, I feel, because Venus is about money. It's not just about relating, and it can be about style. So we may find ourselves, in some ways celebrating past traditionality during this festive season. But in terms of those relationships, I think we're wanting to think about the depth, the structure of those relationships. But we're also asked not to think about relationships only in a material way. So that may mean that someone in the retrograde could come back into our lives or come back into our thinking. That is entirely possible. Now, we've had a question from Nicole. What is the Hermetic wheel that we use each week? Well, the Hermetic wheel is a kind of take on the Zodiac, but using tarot. And of course, in the last week, we've had the 9 of Wands, and it's going to continue with that, is it?
It is, yes. So this whole week is governed by the 9 of Wands. But it's also governed, if we look further back on that wheel, by the Queen of Pentacles. So it really is a take on the astrology. The tarot was using an astrological wheel, if you like, to place cards within it, to give us a flavour of what might happen for us week by week.
Then we bring in the 9 of Wands, the 9 of Batons, saying, keep going, you're nearly at that prize. And then we bring in the Queen of Pentacles.
That's right, yeah.
The exuberance, the Jupiterian influence of Sagittarius is embracing all of that.
This is right. And so astrology really doesn't need tarot at all to survive. But tarot really does rely heavily on astrology to give it some guidance, to give it some structure.
The moon, the sun.
That's completely right. And the numerology ties into it as well. So with this Hermetic wheel, you could go on and on and on. Each individual decan is also ruled by an archangel. So there's really so much to discover with it. But I think just getting the pip cards down, which is what we talk about each week, is for me the most useful way to use this wheel. So yeah, this week we're in the 9 of Wands. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to defend something that we've created. This could be as simple as, say for example, we get a new carpet laid down and somebody comes into our home and doesn't take their shoes off. Well, we need to tell them to take their shoes off. So in a very practical way, we can defend something that we've created, stand up for ourselves a little bit. If we're feeling a bit walked over or not listened to, we've got to voice those concerns this week.
Oh, that's brilliant. Now, Therese, wonderful follower of our show, has asked us to talk about the word truthiness. Now, I'm going to make a complete confession here, Therese. I hadn't heard of it.
No, I hadn't heard of it either.
So
that
you
was
put us
brilliant.
right on the celestial back foot. Take a foot back.
So we had to do a little bit of looking up what it meant, and now that I've seen it, I can really understand why it's called truthiness. It's basically the idea that we believe something to be true so emotionally that we disregard any fact that brings that up.
There's a few public figures I can think in that fall into the
Yes.
truthiness category. Public figures that are very much in the public eye at the moment. All right, I'm not going to say I don't want to be that controversial.
But this is such a big topic at the moment, so it's fantastic that you've chosen this word. It could be as much as, say we follow a sports team and we're really into that team to the point where we're biased to
Well, that's most sports fans.
any
Suffer with
criticism.
truthiness. Yeah.
Suffer with truthiness. So we have to kind of, look at things. There's sometimes memes I see on social media and it'll say, count your blessings, and then under it'll say Plato. And it's like, well, Plato didn't say it, but the meme says that he said it, and then it gets shared, and then it gets promoted.
Okay, who did then?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, how do you know he didn't?
He might have said it in back.
Let's have it straight.
It's not really very sort
That's
of...
truthiness you've just shown there. God, dearie me.
It's so truthy. So yeah, we just need to sort of monitor whether our... That's so funny. Whether our...
Bang to rights.
I have been there.
I'll come
caught me
peaceful,
out.
governor.
You caught me out.
I did
Good
it.
and
It's
proper.
a fair cop. Right,
So
the
then-
winner of the birthday wheel, the birthday solar return.
Oh, yes,
is
and you also share a birthday week with me. So that's great, isn't it?
wonderful.
Yeah.
So it's the lovely Anima, who again is a great follower and interactor on the show. So thank you for the other entries as well. We didn't actually get the full details of a couple of other people that did. There was one person that wrote to me late, but there was a couple of other people who wrote to me on YouTube that unfortunately we didn't get the details. But anyway, our selection is Anima. So let me don the old spectacles. Now, Anima, okay, so you were born in Great Gonaby in England in the 9th of December 1961, so the day next to Elisa, but just 2 years before.
Yes, indeed.
And at 3:15 a.m. you have an ascendant of 24 degrees 40 in Libra. So that's really interesting. That's very, very close to my ascendant, because it's really interesting because your Saturn in its home zone of Capricorn is actually right on the fourth house cusp in equal house astrology of Saturn. So I think family, home and emotional life probably has been something you've had to battle to define in your life. You also have Chiron in the fourth house as well. So that points potentially towards perhaps some, early sadnesses or losses in your childhood situation. But you have a cluster of energy in the sign of Sagittarius. And I feel that you're very much a freedom lover, but they're in the second house, including your midpoint, which is 24 degrees Sagittarius. So I think you're someone who loves freedom, but has a real appreciation of Earth. It's a very Tauran chart, but with freedom. And then the interesting thing is the move in Pluto in the sky is going to connect with your Saturn over the next year. So because you have Saturn in the third house, I think you think in a very crisp way. I don't think you waste words. Sagittarius people can be very exuberant. I mean, you have Mars conjunct the Sun, which is terrific, very energized and action orientated. Definitely a freedom lover, but you also have Venus and Mercury conjunct in Sagittarius as well, so a lot of sparkle around your personal communication. But because your moon is in Capricorn, where technically it is in its detriment, and you have Eros, the planet of love or of very deep relationships in Capricorn, the same as Elisa and I, and Saturn there as well, I feel that you don't give words away easily. You're a very thoughtful person about how you express things. But I think you're very interested in philosophy. You have a desire always to look up, not down, especially with Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, right on your 4th house cusp too. Now, in terms of your solar return, it is going to be rather similar to what's going on in the heavens this week. But for you personally, Mars, the Sun and Mercury are all in the 6th house, which is terrific practicalities. But you have Jupiter right on your 10th house. If there are ideas you want to elevate and share with a wider audience, Jupiter's going to help you. The midpoint is 17 degrees Capricorn, and of course you will have that Venus conjunct Pluto in your chart, and they are very, very close to your Saturn. So it's possible that you could forge a very profound connection to someone through your ideas or philosophies over the next year. It could be romantic, but I don't think it would be a flirty romantic situation. I think it would be extremely a meeting of minds, a very spiritual connection. Now, because the solar return very much mirrors the astrology of each week, I am thinking about changing things up for the next time we have a winner. So if you want to enter your details, your birth chart details for week commencing the 13th of December through till the 19th, please do so. But then I'm going to analyse the chart, but I'm going to use transits in conjunction with the chart. Perhaps also look at the progress chart. This is where we move forward someone's chart based on 1 degree for each year of their life. So we go forwards in Anima's case 61 degrees, and that gives you a huge stellium of energy in the sign of Aquarius, but it's all in the 2nd house still. So this whole issue of being close to nature, of appreciating, I think in your case, I don't think it's a material appreciation. That's not to say that you won't have treasured possessions. I think for you, there is an appreciation of ecology, of recycling, upcycling, living in quite a simple way. But your chart is very, very Aquarius in your progressions, and you have Jupiter and Venus, the lesser and greater benefics together in your 2nd house, conjunct the Sun. That's glorious. So you are attracting goodness to your chart. It is true that Mars and Saturn are together in the 2nd house. That can create limitations on finance, so there may be a little bit of a juggle going on there, but you have gone through your Saturn return and you've gone through your lunar return over the last couple of years, and I think that this year ahead could lead to some unexpected transformations with Pluto moving over your Saturn, but also crucially over that Eros, and in that solar return Venus is in the mix too. So there could be a meeting of minds that's quite critical to you. So I hope that makes sense and is of interest.
Lovely.
So also, if you would like to share a word of the week for us to look at, or if you have any questions, please let us know. What's the modality for this week?
So this week we're going to use the Enchanted Oracle cards.
Oh, I love these. We used to use these with the Daily Show a lot.
We did.
The graphics are superb.
Yeah, and on the back of them they're all different colours. So do you want to pick one?
Okay, thank you. I'll go for green because I've got a green shirt on.
Oh. Ooh. The words on this card are leadership and healing. I love that these two words have been put together, leadership and healing. If we think about that, it's like sometimes taking control of our situation, of our life, can lead to great healing, where we're not allowing our decisions to just be made by other people. We're making conscious decisions of how we want to maybe develop ourselves or, the things around us, and that can lead to great healing.
I think also it's worth thinking about that leadership is not necessarily management. Leadership is sort of understanding that big picture, going back to the vision word that we had a couple of weeks ago. So I think you can manage something. We can all manage our daily processes, but sometimes we need to sort of perhaps think about where our life is heading or where we'd like it to head. And that might mean going beyond the management of the resources, even the management of our emotions, and having that spark of inspiration to see things in a different way. Why is it that you know, just in terms of sports, you see that one particular manager will go into a club and galvanise a group of people in an incredible way, and another equally skilled technical manager who knows lots about football hasn't been able to achieve the same results. That is leadership. It's not management, it's leadership. They're creating some kind of special spark of energy which uplifts and gives people some kind of sense of something bigger that perhaps goes beyond just going through those processes. So I think leadership is a tremendous concept.
That is so true. I love that. And I think some of the most famous healers of the world have also been leaders. And so, you know, those two things really do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I love your analogy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the subscriptions to the show and to our lovely patrons. We're again very sorry we haven't updated you more recently. It really has been very, very hectic. I think this is the earliest we've done this show for absolutely weeks because we're just constantly on the back foot. But we are seeing that we might, by the turn of the year, be getting on top of things a little bit. But thank you so much for sticking with us, all of you. Your lovely comments, which we really appreciate. Have a wonderful week, and from the A team it is
Goodbye from him.
and it's goodbye from her. Goodbye.